Chapter 1. Good woman versus bad woman. The difference men learn too late. And when I say too late, I don't mean after a bad date. I mean after years, after money spent, after peace is lost, after confidence drained, after you've been turned into a version of yourself you don't even respect anymore. Because this isn't really about women. This is about discernment. Most men aren't losing in love because they can't get a woman. They're losing because they keep picking the wrong type of woman and calling it chemistry. They pick based on looks. They pick based on how she makes them feel. They pick based on excitement. They pick based on validation. And then they act shocked when their life gets chaotic. So this video is going to give you clarity, not stereotypes, not hate, not bitterness, real-world differences you can actually observe. Because the hardest truth is this: a bad woman isn't always obvious. Sometimes she looks like the best thing that ever happened to you in the beginning. That's why men learn too late. If you've ever ignored red flags because she was beautiful, like the video because you're not alone. Subscribe because love delusion is about saving men from expensive lessons. And comment discernment if you're done choosing based on impulse. Let's start with the first big difference. A good woman adds to your life. A bad woman subtracts from your life. And that sounds simple, but most men don't measure relationships like that. They measure how much they want her. They don't measure what she produces in them. So let me slow that down. A good woman makes your life more stable. You sleep better. You focus more. You feel respected. You feel like you can build. A bad woman makes your nervous system live on edge. You're always trying to read her mood, always trying to fix something, always trying to avoid conflict, always feeling like you're one mistake away from punishment. And men call that passion. That's not passion. That's stress. That's your body telling you danger. Now, a lot of men won't accept this because they've been trained to chase drama. They've been trained to confuse chaos with chemistry. So they reject good women as boring and chase bad women because they feel alive until the bad woman makes them miserable. Then they finally understand. Too late. A man meets a woman who's calm, feminine, and consistent. She doesn't play games. She likes him. She's supportive. But he feels like something is missing. He doesn't feel the rush. So he leaves her. Then he meets a woman who's unpredictable, hot and cold, sometimes sweet, sometimes disrespectful. Sometimes she wants him, sometimes she disappears. Now he's obsessed. He can't stop thinking about her. And he calls it love. But what he's really experiencing is a dopamine addiction to uncertainty. He spends months trying to win her. He finally gets her. And once he has her, the chaos doesn't stop. It becomes his life. Now he's exhausted. Now he's reacting instead of leading. Now he's broke, drained, and emotionally numb. And then he thinks about the calm woman. And he realizes she wasn't boring. She was peace. That's the lesson men learn too late. If you're the type of man who gets bored with calm women, you don't need a more exciting woman. You need a better nervous system. You need to detox from chaos. Because peace is not boring. Peace is the foundation of everything you want. Now, let's talk about the real differences, not surface level, not good girls versus bad girls. The real differences are in behavior and values. Difference number 1. A good woman respects you when you're not watching. This one is everything. A bad woman is loyal only when it benefits her image. A good woman is loyal because it's who she is. When you're not around, she protects your name. When you're not around, she doesn't flirt for attention. When you're not around, she doesn't act single. A bad woman needs constant external validation, so she will always keep a backup plan, always keep orbiters, always keep attention sources, because her self-worth is external. A bad woman can look loyal as long as you're providing, as long as you're giving, as long as you're present. But the moment you're busy, the moment you're stressed, the moment you're not performing, she starts seeking attention elsewhere. That's why men get blindsided. They didn't choose a woman with loyalty. They chose a woman who liked benefits. Now here's the opposite. A good woman is loyal through seasons. When you're winning, when you're grinding, when you're stressed, when you're tired. She's consistent. And consistency is the loudest form of loyalty. Difference number 2. A good woman adds peace. A bad woman adds anxiety. A bad woman will have you constantly second-guessing yourself. You'll find yourself asking, did I do something wrong? Why is she acting like this? What does she mean? Why is she mad? That constant mental noise is not love. It's stress. A good woman communicates clearly. She doesn't punish you with silence. She doesn't weaponize her emotions. She doesn't turn everything into a power game. A good woman wants solutions. A bad woman wants control. Now let me ground that with a first-person example. I've seen men become shadows of themselves in relationships with bad women, not because the woman had magical power, but because every day was emotional warfare. One day she's loving, next day she's cold, one day she's praising you, next day she's insulting you. That emotional volatility trains you to chase approval, and once you're chasing approval, you're no longer leading. Now you're auditioning. And once a man becomes an auditioning man, his masculinity gets drained. That's why the bad woman is so destructive. Difference number 3. A good woman supports your purpose. A bad woman competes with it. This is one men don't recognize until they've lost years. A good woman understands you have a mission. She doesn't see your purpose as a rival. She sees it as part of the relationship. She supports it. She encourages discipline. She respects your time. A bad woman competes for attention. If you're working, she gets mad. If you're focused, she accuses you of not caring. If you're building, she creates drama to pull you back into her emotional world because she wants to be the center, not your partner. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. A bad woman doesn't want a man with a mission. She wants a man who orbits her. And men don't realize they're being pulled into orbit until they look up and realize their life has stopped progressing. If this chapter is already making you think about a woman you chose wrong, like the video because awareness saves years. Share it with a man who's currently blinded by beauty. Subscribe because the next chapter will go deeper into the signs, how a bad woman tests you, how a good woman behaves under pressure, and the subtle differences men ignore in the honeymoon stage. Chapter 2. Men don't lose because they can't find a good woman. Men lose because a good woman doesn't always feel exciting, and a bad woman usually feels like a movie. That's the trap. The bad woman feels like intensity, passion, chemistry, danger. The good woman feels like ease, stability, peace, warmth. And most men choose the movie because they have never been trained to value peace. So in this chapter, we're going to break down the early stage signs, the stuff that shows up in the honeymoon phase before the mask falls off. Because the truth is, bad women don't show their worst behavior on day one. They show it when they get comfortable. They show it after you invest. That's why men learn too late. So let's go through the differences that appear early if you're paying attention. If you've ever said she switched up, like the video because this chapter explains why. Subscribe because Love Delusion teaches you to see patterns before they cost you. Comment early signs if you're ready to stop getting blindsided. Let's begin. Early sign number 1. How she reacts to boundaries. This is the cleanest test on earth. A good woman respects boundaries. A bad woman challenges them. Not because she's strong, because she wants to see how much she can control. So pay attention. If you say, I can't do that tonight, I have to work. A good woman says, okay, baby, handle your stuff. A bad woman says, oh, so I'm not a priority? Now notice what she did. She turned your discipline into guilt. That's manipulation. A woman who manipulates your emotions hates boundaries because boundaries remove control. Now here's where men mess up. Men confuse passion with disrespect. They think a woman arguing is fiery. They think a woman being jealous is love. They think a woman reacting emotionally means she cares. No. A lot of bad women care too. They just care selfishly. They care in a way that wants ownership, not partnership. So boundary reaction is the first sign. A woman who can't handle your no is not a safe woman. Early sign number 2, how she treats you when she's upset. This is huge. Every woman gets upset, and that's normal. The difference is how she handles it. A good woman communicates. A bad woman punishes. A good woman says, "Hey, this bothered me." A bad woman says, "Silence." Or she becomes cold, or she disappears, or she starts posting, or she starts flirting, or she starts testing. Because she wants you to chase. She wants you anxious. She wants you to feel what she feels. That's childish. A good woman doesn't want you anxious. She wants solutions. A bad woman wants leverage. Now let's ground this with a story. A man starts dating a woman. Everything is great. One day he doesn't reply for 2 hours. She gets mad. Instead of saying, "Hey, I missed you," she punishes him. She replies short. She acts cold. She makes him feel wrong. Now the man starts overcompensating. He starts texting more. He starts explaining. He starts apologizing for nothing. Now she learns something. He is easy to control. And once she learns that, she begins building a relationship dynamic where she is the authority. Now he's no longer leading. Now he's managing her emotions. That's what bad women do. They create emotional labor. Good women create emotional safety. Early sign number 3, how she speaks about men. This one exposes everything. Listen to how she talks about her ex. Listen to how she talks about men in general. A good woman might have pain, but she takes accountability. A bad woman has nothing but blame. All men are trash. My ex was narcissistic. I always get done wrong. That is a red flag. Not because she shouldn't feel hurt, because she's showing you a pattern. She never reflects. She never learns. She never grows. That means when she hurts you, she will justify it. Bad women always have a reason, always a story, always a victim narrative. Good women have honesty. They can say, "I made mistakes too." That ability alone is a green flag. Early sign number 4, how she responds to your success. This is a scary one. A good woman admires your progress. A bad woman resents it. A good woman says, "I'm proud of you." A bad woman says, "So you're too busy for me now?" Bad women compete with your mission. Good women support it. This is where a lot of men get destroyed. Because a bad woman will start fights on your most important days. She will create drama right before your meeting, right before your travel, right before your grind. Because subconsciously she wants to test, will he choose me over his purpose? If you choose her over your purpose, she will respect you less. That's the twisted part. Bad women want control, but they don't respect what they control. That's why men lose. Now the next sign. Early sign number 5, how she handles attention from other men. This one is massive. A good woman shuts attention down. A bad woman collects it. A good woman doesn't need orbiters. A bad woman needs them like oxygen. So if you're dating a woman and she has 100 guys in her comments, best friend guys she texts daily, constant DMS she responds to, Snapchat streaks with random men, a phone full of male attention. That doesn't automatically mean she's cheating, but it does mean she's addicted to attention. And attention addiction is one of the biggest predictors of disloyal behavior. Because eventually, you won't be enough. No single man can compete with endless validation. Now, here's where men get delusional. They think, she's just friendly. But no, she's harvesting validation. And if you choose a woman like that, your relationship will always be unstable because she will always crave more. Now, the good woman, she doesn't need that. She gets her validation from self-worth, not the internet, not orbiters, not exes. Now the last sign for this chapter. Early sign number 6, how she treats your masculinity. A bad woman tries to weaken you subtly. She tries to control you. She wants to domesticate you. She will mock your boundaries. She will mock your confidence. She will tease your ambition. She will shame your standards. Good women respect masculinity. They don't try to compete with it. They want to complement it. This doesn't mean you dominate her. It means she respects structure. She respects leadership. She respects discipline, and she feels safe inside it. If this chapter is making you realize you missed obvious signs before, like the video because discernment is a superpower, share it with the man who keeps getting surprised by toxic women. Subscribe because the next chapter will go deeper into the biggest trap. Why bad women feel so addictive, why men ignore red flags, and how to stop confusing chaos with love. Chapter 3. Now we're going to talk about the most dangerous part of this whole topic. Why do men keep choosing bad women, even after they've been burned? Why do men knowingly ignore red flags? Why do men get warned by friends and still chase? Why do men call toxic women the love of my life? Because bad women are addictive. Not because they're better. Because they trigger your nervous system, and most men are not in love with the woman. They're addicted to the emotional spike she creates. That's why men learn too late. They don't realize they're not dating, they're gambling. If you've ever gone back to a woman you knew was bad for you, like the video because you're about to understand why you couldn't stop. Subscribe because love delusion breaks addictions, not just relationships. Comment addicted if you're done being controlled by chaos. Let's go deep. Bad women feel like high stakes. A good woman feels predictable. A bad woman feels uncertain. Uncertainty creates dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical of anticipation. That's why you think about her non-stop. That's why you replay conversations. That's why her texts feel like a drug. Because your brain is hooked on unpredictability. Sometimes she's sweet. Sometimes she's cold. Sometimes she's affectionate. Sometimes she's distant. Sometimes she's yours. Sometimes she feels like she could disappear. That creates high stakes, and high stakes feel like love to a man who confuses tension with chemistry. Now, the bad woman becomes a casino. Every text is a slot machine pull. Will she respond? Will she be nice? Will she be cold? Will she choose you today? That's not love. That's a dopamine trap. And most men don't realize it until they're emotionally bankrupt. Now let's ground this with a story. Third-person story. A man meets a woman. She's beautiful. She's exciting. She has an edge. The first few days she's obsessed. Then she disappears. Then she comes back like nothing happened. He confronts her. She flips it on him. You're doing too much. Now he feels ashamed. So he tries to be more chill. But now he's walking on eggshells. Now he's trying to earn her. That chase becomes his identity. He stops thinking clearly. He starts ignoring friends, ignoring family, ignoring work, because his brain is hooked. And the crazy part, the more she pulls away, the more he wants her. That's the drug. Now, compare that to a good woman. She likes him. She replies consistently. She communicates. She's stable. And he says she's boring. But she's not boring. She doesn't trigger the casino effect. She doesn't activate addiction. She activates peace. And peace feels unfamiliar to an addicted man. So he rejects peace and chases the casino. That's how men lose. Men ignore red flags because they think beauty equals value. This is the oldest delusion in the book. Men think, she's bad, but she's beautiful. So they tolerate disrespect. They tolerate inconsistency. They tolerate manipulation. They tolerate chaos because they feel like beauty is rare. But in 2026, beauty isn't rare. Filters exist, makeup exists, surgery exists, Instagram exists, thirst traps exist, beauty is everywhere, but loyalty isn't, peace isn't, femininity isn't, support isn't. And if you keep choosing based on beauty, you will keep learning late lessons. Now let me talk directly to you. If you can't leave a woman because she's attractive, that means your standards are weak, not your taste. Your standards. Because a strong man would rather be alone than disrespected. A weak man would rather be disrespected than alone. That's the difference. And women can feel that too. They know which one you are. Bad women are predators, not in an evil way sometimes, but in a survival way. They have learned. Weak men are easy. Weak men chase. Weak men forgive. Weak men tolerate. Weak men pay. Weak men overinvest. So bad women can smell desperation. They can smell loneliness. They can smell thirst. And that's why they're attracted to weak men. Not because they love them, because they can control them. That's why men keep getting destroyed. They don't understand the type of woman they're dealing with. Now, this doesn't mean good women don't like you too. But bad women will pursue you faster because they want control. Good women are slower because they want alignment. Bad women are intense because they want ownership. The addictive woman drains your masculinity. A man's masculinity is built on purpose, stability, discipline, self-control, clarity, leadership. Bad women attack those foundations. They turn you emotional. They turn you reactive. They turn you into a negotiator. They make you doubt yourself. They get you addicted to them. Now you're not even living your life. You're living her moods. And men confuse this with love because they feel locked in. But they're not locked in. They're trapped. Good women don't trap you. Good women expand you. Bad women shrink you. That's the measurement. The good woman is quiet power. Here's why men miss good women. Good women don't always advertise themselves. They're not loud. They're not attention addicted. They're not thirst trapping. They're not performing. They're not trying to win. They're peaceful. They're stable. They're consistent. And weak men overlook them because weak men are addicted to stimulation. Bad women stimulate. Good women stabilize. And stabilization doesn't feel exciting at first. It feels like boredom. Until you realize boredom is actually calm, and calm is rare. If this chapter is waking you up to why you kept chasing toxic women, like the video because this self-awareness is power. Share it with a man who thinks toxic love is real love. Subscribe because the next chapter will show you the actual long-term outcome. What happens when you choose a bad woman versus what happens when you choose a good woman, and how to choose correctly before it costs you years. Chapter 4. Now we're going to talk about outcomes, because this is where men finally get wise. Most men choose women based on the beginning, how she looks, how she makes them feel, how intense the chemistry is. But the smartest men choose women based on the ending. What kind of life will this woman create with me? What kind of home will this woman create with me? What kind of man will I become if I stay with this woman? Because the truth is, a woman is not just a girlfriend. She is a multiplier. She multiplies peace or multiplies chaos. And a bad woman might feel amazing at the beginning, but she always costs you at the end. That's why men learn too late. If you've ever lost years with the wrong woman, like the video because this chapter is the wake-up call, subscribe because love delusion is about saving men from slow destruction. Comment outcome if you're ready to start choosing wisely. Let's get into it. What happens when you choose a bad woman? At first, it feels exciting. She makes you feel alive. She makes you feel wanted. She makes you feel like you're in a movie. She's intense. She's passionate. She's possessive. And you think, this is love. But slowly, your life starts shrinking, not in one dramatic moment, in daily small ways. You stop sleeping well. You lose focus. You lose discipline. You stop doing what made you a man in the first place because you're constantly reacting to her. Her mood, her emotions, her jealousy, and her tests and her drama. Now you're not leading, you're managing, and management drains you. A bad woman will have you explaining yourself every day. Where you were, why you didn't respond, who you're with, what you meant, what you were thinking. And men tolerate this because they think jealousy equals love. No. Jealousy is insecurity, and insecurity creates control. Now eventually, the man becomes tired. He becomes less affectionate, less patient, less present, and the bad woman uses that as proof he doesn't love her. So she escalates. She starts flirting. She starts disrespecting. She starts crossing boundaries. Now he gets angry. Now he becomes toxic too. This is the real outcome. Bad women don't just ruin your peace, they turn you into a worse man. Now let me ground this with a story. Third-person story. A man is building his life. He meets a woman who is stunning. Everybody wants her. He feels like he won. At first she's obsessed, then she starts testing him. She gets mad when he works. She starts fights when he's busy. She makes him prove love constantly. He starts losing focus. His business slips. He stops going to the gym. He starts drinking more. He becomes reactive. Now she respects him less. And the crazy part, the more he becomes weak, the worse she treats him. Because bad women don't love weak men. They use them. So now he's in a cycle. He's losing himself. And she's losing respect. That relationship ends in destruction. Sometimes in cheating, sometimes in pregnancy, sometimes in court, sometimes in depression. But the outcome is always the same. The man loses years. That's why men learn too late. Now let's talk about the other side. What happens when you choose a good woman? It might not feel like fireworks every day. It might not feel like a movie. But your life expands. You become more focused, more disciplined, more ambitious. Because you're not fighting battles at home. You're building. A good woman supports your purpose. She respects your grind. She respects your boundaries. She doesn't create drama to feel powerful. She brings peace. And peace makes men unstoppable. Men don't realize this until they experience it. When a man comes home to peace, he's unstoppable. When a man comes home to chaos, he becomes drained. Now, a good woman also does something powerful. She makes you want to be better, not through pressure, through inspiration, because she's loyal, because she's consistent, because she's feminine, because she's supportive. And a man naturally rises, not because she's controlling him, because he wants to deserve her. That's what good women do. They don't trap you, they elevate you. The bad woman makes you chase. The good woman makes you build. That's the difference. Bad women keep you in pursuit mode, always chasing love, chasing approval, chasing stability, chasing her mood. Good women keep you in build mode, building the relationship, building trust, building family, building legacy. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, but the good woman doesn't excite me, here's the truth. Excitement is not the goal. Peace is, because peace gives you the space to create excitement with her. You can travel, you can build intimacy, you can create passion, but you can't create peace with a bad woman. Peace is a character trait, not a date night. Now here's something men need to hear. A good woman isn't perfect. A lot of men have unrealistic expectations. They think a good woman means no flaws, no emotions, no needs, no mistakes. That's delusional. A good woman still has emotions. She still gets upset. She still has standards. The difference is she communicates like an adult. She doesn't punish. She doesn't manipulate. She doesn't compete with you. That's what matters. Choosing wrong isn't a small mistake. It's a life decision. This is why this topic matters. A woman can affect your mental health. Final answer. Your financial stability, your reputation, your peace, your children, your future. So choosing wrong isn't just heartbreak. It's destruction. That's why men learn too late. They treat dating like fun until it becomes serious. Then they realize they chose a bad woman because she looked good. Now they're paying for it in years. If this chapter is making you realize how serious this choice is, like the video because wisdom is prevention. Share it with the man dating a woman who's draining him. Subscribe because in the final chapter, we're going to give you the clear selection checklist. How to identify a good woman, how to vet properly, what questions to ask, what behaviors to watch, and how to avoid choosing the wrong one no matter how attractive she is. Chapter 5. This is the chapter that can save a man years, because most men don't choose wrong because they're stupid. They choose wrong because they're impatient, they're lonely, they're addicted to looks, they're addicted to excitement, they're addicted to being wanted. So they ignore character, they ignore consistency, they ignore outcomes, and then they learn too late. So in this final chapter, I'm going to give you the real selection code, not dating advice, not lines, the actual traits and behaviors that separate a good woman from a bad woman in real life. And I'm going to keep it simple. Because good women don't require you to be a detective. Bad women do. If this video has helped you so far, like it. Because this is the kind of information that saves men from expensive mistakes. Subscribe, because love delusion is where men get truth, not fantasies. Comment, choose wisely if you're done choosing with lust. Let's finish. The first rule, don't choose women based on potential. This is where men get destroyed. They meet a woman who's bad, but beautiful. Bad, but charming. Bad, but exciting. And they tell themselves, she'll change for me. That is the oldest delusion men have. A bad woman doesn't change because you love her. A bad woman changes when she decides to. And most of the time, she doesn't. She just becomes better at hiding. So the first rule is, choose based on who she is today, not who she could be. A good woman doesn't require hope. She's already stable. She's already consistent. She's already respectful. Now here's the next. A good woman is consistent when you're not performing. This is a huge test. A lot of women are amazing when you're on, when you're spending, when you're entertaining, when you're available, when you're giving. But what happens when you're tired? What happens when you're focused? What happens when you're stressed? A bad woman punishes you for not performing. A good woman supports you through seasons because she understands life has phases. So watch her in a low moment. That reveals her character. A good woman doesn't weaponize her femininity. This is a subtle one. A bad woman uses her emotions like weapons. She cries to avoid accountability. She gets mad to gain control. She withdraws affection to punish. She acts confused so you can't hold her responsible. That's manipulation. A good woman doesn't do that. She can be emotional, yes, but she's honest. She says what she feels. She owns it. She doesn't use emotions to dominate the relationship. A good woman brings peace to your mind. This is the simplest checklist item. How does she make you feel after being around her? Not during the date, after. Do you feel calm? Do you feel respected? Do you feel stable? Do you feel clear? Or do you feel drained, confused, anxious, like you're walking on eggshells? A bad woman makes you feel unstable. A good woman makes you feel grounded. Now let me talk directly to you. If a woman makes you anxious consistently, your body is telling you the truth. Stop overriding your instincts with lust. A good woman has self-control. This matters more than beauty, because beauty without discipline is danger. A good woman doesn't need attention 24/7. She doesn't post thirst for validation. She doesn't entertain orbiters. She doesn't keep exes close. She has self-control. Bad women don't. Bad women live off male attention. So even when they're with you, they're still feeding that addiction. That's why loyalty is hard for them. Not because they're evil, because they're undisciplined. A good woman adds to your masculinity. This is big. A good woman makes you feel like a man, not because she worships you, Because she respects you. She's cooperative, she's supportive, she's feminine. She creates an environment where you can lead. Bad women challenge your masculinity constantly. They compete, they test, they argue, they emasculate, they shame your standards, they try to dominate. That's not strong woman energy. That's chaotic energy. A strong woman is controlled. A chaotic woman is loud. Don't confuse the two. What you must do as a man. Now, here's the hardest truth in the whole video. Sometimes men don't find good women because they're not good men yet. They don't have standards, they don't have direction, they don't have discipline. So they attract chaos. Because chaos is all they can handle. Good women want stable men, men with vision, men with self-control, men with backbone. So if you want a good woman, you must become the kind of man a good woman respects. That's the final lesson. Good women don't destroy your life. Bad women don't build your life. And most men don't learn the difference until the damage is already done. So don't choose based on chemistry. Choose based on character. Don't choose based on excitement. Choose based on peace. Don't choose based on looks. Choose based on loyalty, because beauty fades, but peace lasts. Like the video, if this gave you clarity. Share it with a man who's dating a bad woman because she's attractive. Subscribe because love delusion will keep teaching men the truth. And remember, you don't want the woman everyone wants. You want the woman who makes your life better. That's the difference men learn too late.